good morning. Plus I'm eating now. I've actually been eating Werther's Originals as well. It's not really what you should be eating at this time of the morning, but it is just gone 6 o'clock. It's time for another fragrance drive along for my commute to work. So, what are we talking about today? Well, I'm going to go back to what I said last week. I wanted to talk about new releases for 2026, because there's actually been quite a few fragrance releases, or certainly some that have been, you know, some spoilers that have come out to tell you what could be coming out this year. And I just wanted to kind of make people aware of them as well, and maybe just have a little look at the sort of trends that are going on at the minute. Is there a certain trend of fragrance note that brands are looking at? You know, how different are they? Are they sort of more or less the same as what we've had before? Are they just flankers? So yeah, I thought I'd go into some brands, not just the ones that I normally talk about, maybe some slightly different ones today as well, because I'm aware I talk about Lush a lot because I just love them so much. So let's get straight on to it today. We're going to start with Klein, actually. Now, Klein fragrances are really good. They're high quality, high end. If you go into like high end fragrance shops, whether that's like a Harrods or a Liberty or a Selfridges, they're always in there. I'm sure Sephora would have them as well. They tend to have a bit of a DNA of a lot of boozy sort of notes. So they tend to be more statement sense, I think, Klein. You know, I mean, their most popular one is Angel Share. Everyone talks about that one. It's been cloned a few times by a few brands. And I always think the one thing I love with Klein, they do tend to like boozy notes. And I think Black Phantom's another one that has a boozy note as well. And they look like they're continuing that trend this year. So the first fragrance is called Her Majesty by Klein. Now, it's a unisex fragrance, but looking at the bottle, looking at the notes, there's some floral notes in this. I believe there's a bit of rose in it. It looks more of a feminine fragrance, but the main thing that I like to it is rum. So rum is a note I absolutely love. It's in Bentley for Men Intense, which is one of my favourite fragrances. It's just a very, very nice fragrance, and one that, you know, if you get rum right as a note, it can just honestly just take you to the next level. And I get the impression this one could be. So, one to look out for this year. I believe it's already actually out, released this year. Current reviews are a little bit underwhelming. They're about 3.6 on Fragrantica, but I think when there's not many reviews, that can go one or two ways. You might get those people that's great initially and it'll come down. I think this one will go up. I think this will get higher ratings the more people wear it. Certainly as we approach the springtime, when I think this fragrance will really shine. So that's the first one. We're then going to go on to Calvin Klein. So Calvin Klein, they do a lot of men's and women's fragrances, to be honest with you, and they've had some very, very popular lines. They've had an Eternity line, obviously their Obsession line, absolute standard, one of my favourites, particularly the original. But they've had Dark Obsession, bit my tongue, Obsession Night, but also they've had some women's lines. My mum's had one of these. It was a little bit young for her, but Euphoria, and that's where we're going to look at today. So they are releasing 3 new Euphorias this year. It doesn't look like they're out. They're certainly not easy to find if you can, but they've got an elixir line. It feels like every brand at the moment is going for this elixir line. You know, Dior Sauvage elixir. There's a lot of them that have got elixirs now everywhere. And yeah, they've got 3 coming out. So one's called Bold, which looks a little bit more daring, I must admit. I believe there might be a bit of leather in that one. They've got one called Magnetic, which looks more like your sort of transition season type fragrance. And then they've got one called Solar, which has a note of mango in it, which sounds very appealing, very tropical. And I think that'll be a really nice fragrance. I expect they'll be more youthful again, more targeted towards, you know, younger women and girls. But again, I like the fact Calvin Klein is still pushing their original lines, because they did one last year called it was like a coconut sort of body spray, like a body mist, which I really liked the idea of. But I do think brands sometimes just need to stick with what they're good at, and I think they've done that here with this Euphoria line. I'd like to see them release a few more men's fragrances this year. Again, maybe a new Obsession. It feels like it's been a little while now since we've had a Obsession flanker, and I think it'd be great, because I think the original almost gets a little bit forgotten at times as well, and I think just bringing that DNA back would be fantastic. Do you know, I always moan how sort of fast cars are at this time of morning. The one in front of me is doing about 19 miles an hour in a 30. Typical. Thankfully I did leave in good time today. So the next brand we're going to go on to is Hugo Boss. Hugo Boss is a brand that, I'll be honest with you, when it comes to fragrances, I forget. I seem to just not, I don't know why, because obviously they've done a lot of popular ones, Boss Bottled, and they've done many flankers of that. And I remember Hugo Boss Hugo Man, which I had, was very nice fragrance. Boss Bottled is an amazing scent. Again, one I need to probably try and get. If there's one from Hugo Boss I probably would want in a minute, it'd be that. But they really gathered my attention today, and this is why I wanted to mention them, because they've brought out a couple of lavender scents for 2026. One for women, one for men. And one's called Sparkling Lavender. That one's targeted to women. And that just, again, I haven't looked too detailed on those. Obviously lavender is the prominent thing here. But I don't know if they've got maybe some sparkling sandalwood in this or something, just to kind of bring out that lavender a bit more. But if it really is like a sparkling lavender, that sounds absolutely amazing. That sounds exactly the sort of scent that maybe we're missing. When you get sort of lavender scents, they tend to be quite smooth. I feel like a little boozy note with a bit of lavender, just to add a bit of sparkle. Even if like I've heard this before, that vodka, because obviously vodka doesn't have a scent, that can add that slight sparkling edge to fragrances as well, if you add that as a note. Ungaro Poron, that was the fragrance I believe that has like a vodka note in, and people say it doesn't give that sort of sparkling edge. So that's one for women. The one for men is called Striking Lavender. I don't know how similar these are. I'm not expecting them to be too similar. I assume this one's going to have a bit more something like black pepper. But I'd be really intrigued to know, you know, I'd like to get both these races here. I think lavender's a very underutilised note, but I do think it's one that's growing again because of its calming effects. I think we're all looking for things to calm us down. I mean, I'm someone who obviously likes my sport. I take quite a few, you know, I'm always looking at Holland and Barrett, for example, for supplements to help me relax, or, you know, just have a positive effect, you know, energy. If this one can give you that calming effect as a fragrance, I think that's going to be brilliant. And Hugo Boss seems to be pushing that lavender market this year, so definitely worth checking out. I'm very much looking forward to that one. The next one is a brand I don't think I've ever really mentioned, but they do one called, I believe it's Santal 33, which is their big seller. The one that is today is Violette, or Violetta 30 by Le Labo. I assume that's how you pronounce it. Please tell me in the comments if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Yeah, so again, it intrigued me, this one, because I'm a bit hit and miss on Violet Leaf. Violet Leaf is a funny note. If you've sort of smelled it before, I always get this kind of wet leaves vibe, a bit of an ozonic vibe with Violet Leaf. I mean, again, there's been a lot of fragrances that have utilised it. I think Cavalli Uomo is probably a popular one. That's utilised it in the past. I believe Dior Fahrenheit did as well, and that's like a smoky violet. I've got a clone of that in a minute. So, you know, it's one of those notes. It's been around for a long time, but I don't think it's this huge compliment in, but I do think it's a very versatile note. And I just thought, again, a little bit like I was saying earlier, it's nice to see a brand really focusing on a specific note. I've always felt that, for me personally, particularly if I'm getting into fragrances, if I'm getting into fragrances, it's quite nice to sort of deliberately smell a prominent note in a fragrance that you know it's this is what it is, because that's what it's telling me it is. Because when it comes to them buying fragrances, you're not so much in the lurch, and I do like the fact it kind of tells you what's in it, being violet. So Le Labo's, again, another brand I want to explore a little bit more. They're not that cheap, but they're also not ridiculously expensive. I would say though, I don't see them a lot in shops. I see them online, but it's not one I see particularly in shops. Oh, this car, right, I can finally get fighting on the dual carriageway. They are super slow. There we go. There's a lot of water on the road certainly in recent times, is Armani Stronger With You. And there's been a lot of flankers of Stronger With You. Stronger With You Intensely. Do you know what? Probably more than I can even name. But it looks like they've got 2 more coming this year. Yes, 2 more Stronger With Yous. So, what are they? The first one, Stronger With You Powerfully. It's just trying to find any different words for the different names. But look, I don't blame companies for doing this, because again, if you've got a very popular fragrance like a Sauvage, like a Bleu de Chanel, if you release flankers within that name, Versace Eros is another one, even if it's a little bit far removed from the original DNA, the name is going to make people think, I need to get that, it's the new release of that, so I'm going to buy it again, particularly when they're popular scents like these. So yeah, Powerfully, again, I'm not too sure about the notes in it. I couldn't find too much info on it at the moment, but that's going to be one of them. But the next one, there is a little bit more info. It's Stronger With You Spices. Now, it's very obvious what this is. It's going to be a spicy fragrance, and it has got a lot of spices in. So you've got things like, I believe there's a bit of nutmeg in it actually as well, but you've definitely got a bit of cinnamon. So yeah, it's very much that sort of scent where you've got to like spices. Now, I'm not a massive spices fan, but I am intrigued by this one, really, because I think it's going to lean more warm spicy than fresh spicy, and I do think if you get that right with a bit of caramel, a bit of vanilla, that's going to be a really nice scent. So for me, probably out of all the fragrances today that I'm most excited by, it's probably that one. Look, I've got a feeling it's going to be a little bit smell like all the others, but again, that's fine. Like, if you really like those caramel vanilla scents like I do, and with a little bit of spice, add a bit of warm spiciness, I think this is going to be a winner. So for me at the moment, that's probably the main one. But yeah, let me know if there's any you're looking forward to trying this year. Not necessarily fragrances that, you know, came out just this year, because obviously we're only into a couple of months in, but maybe some that you've always wanted to try, that this year you're finally going to make that jump and make that leap and buy it. I mean, there's another one that came out at the end of 2025 by Tom Ford. I believe it's called Oud Voyager. Again, it's interesting to see how companies are still using oud, particularly these big brands, because it is a luxury note. Whether it's the most popular, it is quite a luxury one. And I believe that's got a bit of peony in it, which is quite a feminine note. So I think looking at, you know, the info on it, the background on it on fragrance and the notes, that's more of a women's type fragrance. So again, if you're interested in that, it's a nice bottle actually as well. It's the private blend, but it's a nice sort of shade of purple with that matters to you. I do sometimes regret throwing bottles away, because actually I think you could have a lovely display of fragrance bottles. But for me personally, yeah, the other thing, as I'm a little bit early, I do just want to touch on a couple of that. So some of the fragrances I've tried this year, 2 of them in particular, Elf Throb, and I've said how much I like that one by Lush, but I'm wearing Mossy Bottom today, which is the Shaun the Sheep collaboration. I was quite critical of it, saying it smelled a bit like Guardian of the Forest, and that it's not, I think it's ripping you off because it's a collaboration and charging more. But I have to say, I've been wearing it a little bit more recently, and for another occasion, I'd probably say, actually, I really like this. It doesn't smell like Garden in the Forest. I think it's okay for a work setting now. It's a lot lighter, it's a lot fresher than maybe I originally gave it credit for. And I'm going to say it now, I really like it. I really like it. My dad's got it now. My brother bought it for him because he drove him all the way to Derby the other week and he wanted to treat him. My dad really likes it. And I wore it the other night, going out for a walk. And I put a lot on, and I thought, I'm going to see if my mum notices it. So I sat next to her while I put my shoes on. And she said, oh, that's really nice. Really nice. What is that? I said, oh, it's Mossy Bottom. But I said, oh, that's what my brother Jack's got, Dad. And she said, yeah, I really like that. And the other day, my brother put on a tobacco vanille clone, and I put on Mossy Bottom. And it's a very good clone, one my brother had. But funnily enough, my mum said, oh, it smells nice up here. And she said to my brother, is that you? And he says, I don't know, it's probably, you know, I think me and Harry have both got sprays on. And funnily enough, she goes, oh, it's Harry's one, which is very rare, because she normally always picks my brother's one because he puts more on. and he probably wears slightly nicer ones in general. He tends to spend a little bit more than me, and he doesn't mix it around so much. My brother's very good. If he's got like a third of a bottle left, he'll wear that one until he finishes it. Whereas I very rarely, if ever, wear fragrances on back-to-back days. But very much enjoying Mossy Bottom at the moment, and I take back some of the criticisms I did on my review of it. It's a good fragrance. It's a very good fragrance. It's one that, yeah, I'm definitely looking to do another video on, maybe just to give it a bit more credit, because I think my opinion has changed so much that I think another review would be a worthwhile exercise. But thank you very much for watching today. Hope that's been useful. Hope it's given you an idea of some fragrances you might want to look at this year and some brands. And of course, let's be honest, all these brands are going to release a lot, whether they've sort of revealed that so far or not. So yeah, keep an eye out. There'll be some absolute gems, I'm sure, this year, and I look forward to sharing some ideas with you for those. But yes, thanks for watching today. I'll catch you later.